If you want a sizable investment portfolio out there in the future, how do you build it? I've got the 5 factors, that and more, coming up. My name is Mike Bernard, the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Sometimes people ask me, hey Mike, so what do you read? Who do you follow? What are the financial folks out there that are influencing you and some of the research that you listen to? Well, there's a lot, and I don't get, in our team, gosh, we sort of curate a lot of different material and follow different folks. And many of us get a weekly newsletter from Mark Zinder, and I would encourage you to do the same. Go check it out. And since it's just weekly and it's usually 8 points or 9 points, and there's a blend between sort of personal finance and macroeconomics and just a little bit of fun and humor sprinkled in there as well. And so Mark was actually referenced in a recent article about what to do with your paycheck first. And gosh, his sort of last few points, I thought were fantastic. And I put my own spin on them, but kudos to him for the original idea. And essentially it's, if you're trying to build up a big investment portfolio out there in the future, what are the factors that are going to drive it? You know, I talked about this before. If you're pursuing building wealth, well, there's a formula to building wealth. It's how much cash times how much time times how much risk. And the way Mark presented these 5 factors that determine the size of your future portfolio, it's embedded within this formula, just a slightly different take on it. So if you're trying to build wealth, if you're trying to build up an investment portfolio out there in the future, what are the contributors? What are the 5 things that are going to influence the size of that portfolio out there in the future? It's how much you invest, how often you invest it, how long you invest it, how you invest it, and how you're taxed on it. It's a tongue twister, but those are the 5 considerations, the 5 things that are going to influence the size of your investment portfolio over the long term. Let's get into each of them. So how much you invest, and going back to that formula for wealth, this is how much cash you throw at it. So how much you invest is absolutely going to influence your future portfolio. Quick example, earlier in my career, working with a couple, doing comprehensive financial planning, in every meeting he would come in and he would talk about his mutual fund and his strategies that we were doing for him, and hey, what are they returning? How are they doing? And he was a big growth investor, and after a few of these meetings, I had already done financial planning and been sort of talking to him about how much they needed to contribute. But I finally stopped and said, listen, you guys are and I said it probably nicer than this, but you guys are contributing about $100 a month. You need to be contributing about $1,000 a month. So there's no amount of growth from your portfolio, from these great investment strategies, that's going to make up for that gap. Yes, we want your investments to perform as well as they possibly can, but that's a significant gap in order to be on track for the goals that you guys said were important. So therefore, how much you invest is going to significantly drive the size of your portfolio. And if you look right now and say, I'm not able to invest that much, that's okay. It's not a permanent, it's not etched in stone. You can increase what you're contributing over time. If you are a blank slate, I would encourage you to save as much as you can, but at least 15% of your income. So saving 15% towards retirement. If you say, I can't, I'm not able to save that much, then do as much as you can and increase it 1% each and every year, and before you know it, you'll get to that 15%. So building a portfolio, a sizable portfolio out there in the future, how much can you invest? How much you invest, that's the first factor. How often you invest it is also a factor as well. And if you look and say, well, 15% per year towards retirement, that's as often enough. Well, technically, you want to leverage something called dollar cost averaging. So how frequently are you making contributions? Because if you're contributing a fixed amount, say $500 every 2 weeks or $1,000 a month, if you're contributing $12,000, that's how much that would equal. If you're contributing $12,000 on the 1st of January every single year, then all $12,000 will go in and, let's just say, buy the stock market or buy your portfolio at that time, whatever the value is. Okay, that's fine. Versus contributing $1,000 a month. Well, now that $1,000, a fixed amount, is going to be buying in to the stock market at whatever that price is every single month. And if the price is low, you'll be able to buy more shares with your $1,000. If the price is high, you'll be able to buy fewer shares. And therefore, on average, you'll be able to buy more shares at a lower average price if you're contributing once a month. Same thing if it's, every paycheck. So $500 on the 1st, $500 on the 15th, you'll be able to buy more shares with that $500 when the price is low, fewer shares when the price is high, and therefore this mathematics of dollar cost averaging can work in your favor. Now, if you look at it a long term, if you can't invest every paycheck or every month, don't look and say, well, then I'm going to miss out on this benefit, and therefore I'm going to miss out on a lot of return. No, but it is a benefit to you. So I'd encourage you to do that, to apply that factor. How often can you invest? It's not going to be the deciding factor of whether you can retire or whether you can't retire, but it will help you along the way. How long you invest it? Absolutely. The number one phrase that's heard in our financial planning meetings, first financial planning meeting with a brand new prospect, is, I wish I would have gotten started sooner. Everyone wishes that. Everyone wishes they would have started saving earlier, started the process of financial planning earlier as well. So how much time can you give it? Going back to that formula for wealth, cash times time. How much time can you give it? The more time you give it, the more opportunity you have for those dollars to go up and down, but grow over the long term to build up that portfolio for you over your lifetime. And that's directly connected to that fourth factor, how you invest it. Kevin Korhorn, the founder of Korhorn Financial Group, one of the co-hosts on our weekly 1-hour talk show that airs on this channel every Saturday morning as well, says how you invest is the single most important financial decision that you make. And now, as we've talked about that, we've sparred about it as well, but you can't really argue with them. And we've got a couple extreme examples. One is a individual that came in to see us, it's 2010, 2012, something like that. And as he was sharing his financial situation, their financial goals, and talking through some of the things that they're looking forward to and some of the things that they're struggling with as well, he had said, and I'm giving you one example, but guys, there's just tons of them. Well, we need to do something with I don't have a good 401k. We're going to have to make a change with my 401k. And it's like, well, let's take a look. And within the 401k, yeah, just like all of them, there's limited investment choices, but the only one, he was only invested in one, and it was the stable value fund. It was cash. So he had been saving into cash since he started with that company, started that 401k in the late 90s. And so you might look and say, well, I bet he was thrilled in 2000, 2001, 2002. I bet he was thrilled in 2008. Absolutely. However, all along the way, there was no growth. So yes, there were no losses during those temporary declines, but there was no gain along the way. And therefore, this account for almost 15, 20 years had essentially averaged a 1% rate of return. Yeah, that is a frustrating 401k, but it wasn't the 401k's fault. It was how you invested it. And therefore, to leverage time, going back to that formula of wealth, to leverage time in cash, you've got to apply risk to it. There's a relationship between risk and reward. Wouldn't say gambling or speculation with reward. That gets into systemic and non-systemic risk, and we're not going to get that geeky. But applying the right investment strategy, the right level of risk to your cash, to your overall portfolio, is going to significantly influence the size of that portfolio over the long term. And then finally, how you're taxed on it. If what are the 5 factors that are going to influence the size of your portfolio? The last one being how you're taxed on it. And just simply stated, if you're saving up $1 million because you've been contributing for a long time, you've contributed often, you contributed the right amount, you've invested it wisely, and you've built up that $1 million. Well, if it's all in a pre-tax account, your statement might say $1 million, but it's not $1 million. It's not your $1 million. You're going to have to give a chunk of that to Uncle Sam every time you pull dollars out, unless you're in the 0% tax bracket. And therefore, that size of that portfolio might have an asterisk next to it, because you've got to give some of it to Uncle Sam, to taxes, versus saving up that $1 million in a Roth IRA or Roth 401k. That $1 million is all yours. There's no asterisk there. Yes, you didn't get a tax deduction on your contribution, but all of the growth and everything else, you're going to be able to pull that out and not have to pay taxes on it. So that final consideration to what the size of your overall portfolio is going to be taxation of it. Further, I would argue, and it's not to get into the debate of should you do pre-tax or should you do Roth, work with your CFP, make that decision, but should you be funding a tax shelter period? Or every time your investment pays a dividend, every time there's capital gain distributions, every time you go to rebalance or make a change, if all of that lands on your tax return and is causing you to pay more tax, then ultimately that's going to limit how much money is able to stay in your overall portfolio and limit the size of it. So as you're looking towards building that big portfolio out there in the future, what are the factors that are going to drive it? How much you invest, how often you invest, how long you invest it, how you invest it, and how you're taxed on it. All of that fits perfectly into your comprehensive financial plan, looking at all 6 areas of your financial life. Present financial position, how much can you invest, how frequently can you do so? Looking at your tax picture as well. Should it be pre-tax? Should it be Roth? Can you make sure that it's going into tax shelters, and which ones make the most sense for you? What are your overall investment strategies, and making sure that you're investing it wisely and so on? All 5 of those factors that drive the size of your portfolio out there in the future fit perfectly within the 6 areas of your financial life. So work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.